Hello， 大家好，歡迎收睇 Pure Living。咁大家睇開我哋嘅 channel 嘅人呢，都知道我同阿 Ray 呢就喺英國長大。咁以前細個讀書喺英國度呢，基本上真係冇乜華人嘅，所以成班都係鬼仔。咁我都好幸運，今時今日呢都同佢哋好 friend， 仲係死黨嚟嘅。咁我哋4個舊同學就趁英國而家仲咁好天，就爭5個鐘車程去到威爾斯 Wales 啦。離開劍橋同埋啲大城市，好似倫敦咁，有翻啲大自然嘅環境，真係非常之舒服，空氣又新鮮，非常之靜，同埋每個地方都好靚。我哋其實嚟到咁遠地方聚會呢，都係諗住有個目的，就係喺 River Wye 度可以划艇，因為呢度非常之出名啦。同埋我哋好中意一齊露營嘅，一嚟可以慳錢啦，二嚟咧就非常之好玩噶啦。其實今集咧就真係冇諗住錄低嘅，因為有一位朋友咧就有少少怕醜，就唔想上鏡頭。但係到夜晚嗰陣咧，營火都開埋咧，我哋就有好多嘢講，同埋好多嘢問。我就趁呢個機會就問我呢幾位英國朋友，你可以俾我哋香港嘅觀眾咩 tips 可以容易啲適應英國嘅文化同埋社會呢？We're by a beautiful campfire, and the question was, what are the top tips to settle into UK culture?
Okay, there's a few things to appreciate, I think, and understand and get to grips with. The first of those is pub culture in the UK is unlike any other kind of drinking culture, I think, around the world, probably. So it's not like bars in America, it's not like cafes and bistros in France. It's very much a place for all kinds of social discourse, very casual, very chilled, but also food and drink. Pubs have changed a lot in the last sort of 10, 15 years, but however you look at it, pubs are still really, really important.
What kind of icebreakers could you give our viewers to settle in if you go to a pub?
To go to the pub. Okay, so if it's a nice pub, well, any pub, it's very reasonable to ask to have a taste of like the local beers. So a lot of pubs have local beers in them, local like ales and things. An ale is a type of beer that you can get in all sorts of different regions. So you get like Cornish ones in Cornwall, or local ones to London, all around the country. So often it can be quite nice to ask for a little taster of different local ones, to taste one that you like, and then you would buy a pint of that. So having tasters is always quite a good one. Another really important tip is understanding the NHS and the importance of that to 99.9% of people living in the UK. So the NHS, the National Health Service, is a state-funded health service, so we don't pay health insurance or anything like that. The state pays for everything, and it was set up after World War II, and it is a national treasure. Like, it's the single most valued institution in the whole of the UK. People in the UK are really defensive of it. We love it, even though we know it's got its problems, clearly, and everyone complains about waiting times at the hospital and all these things. But overall, it is amazing, and we love it. A really hugely important topic of conversation, small talk, we call it, for just everyday conversation, like you bump into someone in the street, or you meet, you have an elongated conversation with someone at a bar or in a supermarket or whatever, is talking about the weather. So it's always just nice to comment on it, like, oh, isn't it hot today? Or, oh, I hope the weather improves. Have you seen the forecast? That's like the de facto, the go-to small talk topic conversation in the UK. Okay, so another really important thing about living in the UK and the way British people talk a lot is just we're an incredibly sarcastic nation. So our sense of humour is very, very dry at times, but sarcasm threads through everything. So, if it's raining, cats and dogs, and you say, oh, it's what do you think of the weather today? You go, oh yeah, it's great, isn't it? That's a really rubbish example, but it gets the point across because it's not great, it's terrible. But British people are sarcastic about a lot of things. My good friend Hugh over there. He's just out of shot. He suggests a really good one, which is we have loads and loads actually of what are they? Are they idioms?
Idioms.
Idioms. They are idioms in the UK. So loads of sayings that relate to normally like really old historical things that we use. So an example I used in a previous tip was it's raining cats and dogs. So it's not actually raining cats and dogs clearly, but the phrase comes from when houses used to be have thatched roofs, so thatched grass hay in the roof, and when it rained really hard, insects and sometimes rodents and things would literally fall down from the roof when it was really hard rain. So you call it "It's raining cats and dogs." But we have these for all kinds of. There are lots from Shakespeare. Absolutely, that's a really good point. Any examples? I can't think now, but there are lots.
Raining cats and dogs.
Yes, so raining cats is a great example.
Hit the sack was another.
Hit the sack.
Don't throw the baby out
hay,
with the bath water.
Don't throw the baby out with the bath water. There's probably a good feature on BuzzFeed.com about this kind of stuff. But yeah, loads and loads of these. And people do genuinely use them in everyday conversation all the time. So in Britain, people bizarrely love football. I personally hate football. But most people do really like it for obscure reasons to me. But there are loads of different sports people really do enjoy here. So football, rugby, and we have two types of rugby here, rugby union and rugby league, which is quite odd in itself, but fine. We then got cricket, which is obviously massive and the most important of all sports by far, especially Test cricket, which lasts 5 days. And for that reason alone, it is the pinnacle of human achievement. Sitting in the sunshine with a nice picnic hamper, cold bottle of Sancerre, some nice sandwiches, 5 days in the sunshine watching sport happen. Lovely. So Test cricket is the very most important thing of all.
Not Wimbledon. Tennis.
Wimbledon, actually, yeah, to be fair, like tennis is great across the board, but Wimbledon in particular is brilliant. Happens every July. 2 weeks every July in London, and Wimbledon is an amazing tennis competition. What else? I mean, actually, going back to cricket, this is very important. So once every 2 years or thereabouts, we have what's called the Ashes, which is a Test cricket competition.
Not these type of Ashes.
Different. Well, they are actually a sort of. Well, they were. So it's a cricket competition every 2 years between England and Australia, at which they compete for a little urn, which is full of the ashes of some cricket stumps that were burned in 1870 something. By the Australians when England went to play a match or a series down in Australia, and the Australians defeated us, royally for the first time. I think like a big, significant defeat anyway. And a newspaper in Australia published an obituary of English cricket, and they made a little urn with the ashes of England cricket. Anyway, so that's a really, really big sporting competition. Happens on a regular basis. I can't remember what I'm talking about now, but it's brilliant. You should watch it. Is if you move into a new house or a flat or anything else, it is a really good idea to introduce yourself to your neighbours. But that's not always possible. Like, you can't always just go and say hello because they may be in, they may be out. But if they're not in, or you can't immediately meet them face to face, it is just a really lovely thing to put a little card or postcard or little letter through their letterbox and just say, oh hey, I'm such and such. I've just moved in such and such and such. If you ever need anything, drop me a line. Here's my mobile number. And just introduce yourself that way, because it goes a long way, and it means they have your name, they know who you are. So that means when if they bump into you in the street, they're like, oh hi, thanks for the letter and nice to meet you. And it's just an immediate icebreaker. So definitely worth doing.
Maybe a box of chocolate as well.
It seems a bit keen to me. I think that's too far.
Okay.
Well, unless if you're moving in somewhere and you're maybe going to be doing like noisy building work or something odd like that, if you're going to be potentially putting your neighbours out in a way, then that's a good idea, like a bottle of wine or a box of chocolates or something, just to like as a little offering to say, sorry, awkward. Another good one is if you've got like a small baby or something like that that's going to be really noisy, is again telling your neighbours and being like, I'm really sorry but I've got a tiny baby, and people will be like, oh my god, that's so cute, isn't that lovely?
咁今集呢，我真係有少少唔好意思，因為點都燈光嗰方面呢唔係咁完美嘅，因為冇帶齊工具，純粹呢真係夠同學聚會， 咁大家露營咁樣，大家傾下偈，咁諗住觀眾呢一定會好奇知道英國人係會點睇法嘅。咁今集呢就講到呢度啦。如果中意呢段片嘅呢，記得俾個 like 我哋，同埋記得 comment share 段片出去。如果未訂閱我哋嘅 channel 呢，記得 subscribe。咁下集再見啦，拜拜。